Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of our Price Know-How Snippets. With me, as always, is Mike Boswell, our Managing Director, and Ian Chisnell, our Product Manager for polyolefins. And we'll start off with Mike, who's going to talk to us about some of the fundamentals that are likely to affect feedstock and polymer prices. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Katherine. Yeah, it's been quite interesting, actually. We've got some action both in terms of oil price and exchange rates. And I think they're going to lead into an interesting conversation with Ian and monomers, because I think we've got things moving in different directions at the moment. So let's start with oil price. On average, it went up by $4.34 from 84.67 to 89.01. Similar movement on the minimum, that went from 81.92 to 86.33, and the maximum price actually got above $91 at 91.17 versus 87.48 back in March, $3.69 up. For those who prefer pounds per tonne, back in March it was £501 and 53 pence. In April, the average price was £535.82, so up by £34 and 29 pence. So that's an upward pressure for sure, and that's really based on geopolitical issues and supply and demand. Although prices did drop away a little bit towards the end of April because reserves in the US actually grew, and that was a bit of a surprise for everybody. Exchange rates wise, this is really a story of strengthening dollar, actually. So the pound against the euro was 117 in March, 117 in April, but we saw the pound drop from 127 to 125 against the dollar, and a similar move actually on the euro from 109 to 107, so 2 cents there. And that's about 1.6%. What's really interesting is to look at the impact of that on US polyethylene imports. And actually, that 2 cents equates to about £35 a tonne of upward pressure. And as we know, US polyethylene is having a big influence in terms of European and UK pricing. So I think that quite neatly leads me on to Ian, who's going to talk about what's actually happened with monomers, which have actually gone in the other direction, and what then might happen in the polymers market. So Ian, over to you.
Yeah, many thanks, Mike, for the insight. So monomers, slightly surprisingly, did drop slightly. So both ethylene C2 and propylene C3 both dropped by €10 a ton. So C2 ethylene is now at a contract price of €1,250 a ton, and propylene is now at a contract price of €1,135 a ton. The impact that will have on polymer pricing is kind of hard to say. And it will depend, I think, as I often sort of say, on the individual supply positions of many of the producers, where it's been produced, and how difficult it is to get it to where we need it to be. There are still some issues in terms of logistics. However, they are gradually getting easier. So we are seeing more imports arriving, and that's going to principally affect grades like HDPE and LLDPE. But as Mike was explaining, a lot of these things are priced in dollars, so any kind of reduction that you may see will probably be offset in terms of an exchange rate movement. So I'm broadly expecting somewhere in the region of around about a rollover. When it comes to most grades of polyethylene, you may see some pressure because, as we all know, the supply and demand balance is what determines the pricing more so than the cost of the raw materials. On polypropylene, slightly different, not subject to quite the same level of imports. There's rumours in the industry of Far East imports of polypropylene heading towards Europe, but they're not here yet, and they're not going to be here probably till at least June. That may provide some pressure going forward, but largely polypropylene is roughly in balance in terms of its supply and demand. So I'm expecting broadly somewhere close to a rollover. Probably be some pressure because of the €10, so people may sort of seek some small reductions, but I think we'll see some resistance to that from European producers because European production is not actually that large at the moment, so it's relatively well balanced. I think we'll have more information sort of later in the month when these things start to become a little bit clearer, but for the now, I would say think in terms of roughly a rollover, maybe a small reduction, maybe a little bit of pressure from some people who've got individual supply issues that they may actually push for a little mini increase.
Thank you so much for that insight, Ian. As Ian mentioned, more information will be available later in the month in our full edition of Price Know-How, and hopefully by then the market position will be a little bit clearer. But in the meantime, if anyone would like any further information at all, please don't hesitate to contact myself, Ian, or Mike, or indeed your customer service team, and we'd all be delighted to help you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.